Okay, so I don't want to waste your time telling you who Realme is and how they've changed the smartphone scene. They've done it and so far it's good. Now, they have two top tier smartphones, that's the Realme X2 and the Realme X2 Pro. Now, they're both amazing devices that offer great software and hardware for its price. But when you look at them closely, they're actually quite similar to one another. So, do you really have to spend all that cash on the X2 Pro, or will the X2 suffice on its own? Well, let's find the answer to that question. This is Varun from Guiding Tech, and let's get started. Now, I suggest you guys stay tuned till the end of this video because I'll be talking about a lot of points, and which phone is right for you would totally depend on which phone you can relate to more. Also, this video will be broken down into different segments, and I'll be talking about the design, display, performance, camera, and the battery, and finally we'll get to the verdict. So, without wasting any more time, let's jump right into it. Okay, first things first, let's talk about the design. Now, both the devices look the same from the front with the water drop notch, and while there's a slight 0.1 inch difference between both the devices, they do look pretty much the same. Now, on the back side, the camera module on the X2 is on the left side, which makes it wobble a bit weirdly when set on a table on its back. As for the X2 Pro, the camera module stays in the back. Now, it's still a very massive bump, which does give it a bit of wobble, but it's still a bit even, so there's that. Now, in my hand, the X2 feels a bit better. That's primarily because of the weight, which is obviously less compared to the X2 Pro. Another thing that I want to highlight is the curved edges here. Now, both of the devices have similar curved edges, but the X2 Pro feels slightly better, which is primarily because it has an aluminum frame compared to the plastic frame on the X2. That's basically because of the price cut. So yeah, I mean, it's not a major difference and you can understand the price cutting, but yeah, it's there. The X2 Pro does offer that slight premium touch. Now, what takes away from the premium experience is the unibody experience, which is not here. That's because the display on both the devices is slightly raised and you can feel it become a different part of the device. So there's that. But that's common on both the devices, so I won't make a big fuss out of it. Now, the X2 Pro comes in a handful of colors, but my favorite has to be the Concrete Master Edition. See, the standard ones are too flashy for my liking, and while they do look good on camera, they don't translate that same experience in day-to-day usage. And the same thing goes for the X2 as well. It's available in green and white and blue, blah blah blah. But let's just cut it down. They are too flashy and they don't look that good while using it day-to-day. Now, you can obviously cover that up with a skin, and this would be the portion where I would call out to some skin maker, but nobody's sponsoring this video. Go figure. So yeah, in the design segment, while I would definitely pick the X2 primarily because of the weight, the X2 Pro does not disappoint and kind of justifies its price tag as well. So there's nothing left to complain in either of the phones in this department at least. Okay, so next up there's the display, and there's only a 0.1 inch separating both the devices. Obviously, there's a 90Hz difference as well, which to be honest is a big difference maker. So I use the X2 Pro as my daily driver, and the higher refresh rate is absolutely amazing. It makes everything look super smooth, animations look great, content flows very well, and even if you're not gaming, the normal web browsing, social media, gaming, and everything else that you like to do looks much better. The 60Hz on the X2 is, well, it's standard and it looks just as fine as any other phone. Now, both the devices feature Super AMOLED display and the color reproduction is great, and both of them come with wideband L1 certification. So content consumption on Netflix or Amazon Prime Video at full high resolution would not be an issue. Now, while that sounds good for both of them, the one aspect where X2 Pro excels is that it not only comes with wideband certification, it also comes with HDR10 Plus support. It may sound all too technical for you, but that just translates into better color reproduction into watching movies or any sort of videos. Now, I don't do that a lot, so for me that's not a big difference, but what does make a difference is the overall brightness. This thing can go as bright up to 1000 nits, which is great for using under direct sunlight. Now, it's not like the X2 can't be used under direct sunlight, it can be, but yeah, I would prefer the X2 Pro any day because the brightness can go to that higher limit. Moving on, let's talk about the performance. Now, the Snapdragon 730G offers flagship-like performance, but obviously it's no match for the Snapdragon 855, which is a full-fledged flagship grade processor. That's it, let's skip the benchmarks for a while and talk about actual day-to-day usage. Now in day-to-day usage, both the devices work really well. There's no lag anywhere, apps load approximately at the same time, and games like PUBG and Call of Duty just run at the highest settings possible. So yeah, for an end user, the chipset difference won't make a difference. Also, as surprising as it sounds, I was really surprised when I started using it. ColorOS with Realme UI actually feels and looks pretty good, apart from these ads that actually show up. Now, obviously, there's an easy toggle to turn them off, but yeah, it's something that I had to highlight. Now, another thing that I want to highlight is that both the phones come with ColorOS 6.1 based on Android 9 Pie. Now, thanks to ColorOS with Realme UI, they both pack in some interesting features of their own. Something that we've talked about in another video, which will be linked in the description box, so do check it out. But the thing is, both these phones were launched at the end of 2019. And launching phones this late in the year with Android 9 Pie feels wrong to me. What makes things worse is that the so-called update schedule that Realme has shared lists out that the X2 and the X2 Pro will be getting their Android 10 based ColorOS 7 update in March. In March. That's 3 months away from now. And okay, I can just let that go for the X2 for a bit, but this right here, it's your flagship device. You're not giving it flagship attention by giving a software update so late. And that's just wrong, Okay, now let's talk about the cameras for a bit. And it's something that I know you guys are most interested about. Now, in a nutshell, both are pretty good. In slightly more words, it's basically you get what you pay for. Now, the primary sensor on both the devices is a 64 megapixel one and it works great. Colors are captured well with an ever so usual hint of saturation and the images are quite crisp. Edge detection is also on point and the bokeh here looks natural in both the cases. There's literally not a lot to separate between both the devices when talking about the main camera. Now, where the X2 Pro and the X2 differ in the cameras is that the Pro variant lets go of the 2 megapixel depth sensor on the smaller one and trades it for a 13 megapixel telephoto lens, which would be my pick any day of the week. It's better, it's crispier, it's more functional, and I use it more often. At least I use it as compared to the depth sensor, which I never use. Lastly, in selfies, the X2 has double the pixels than the X2 Pro, which is quite interesting actually. The results captured are mostly the same, though if you take a closer look at both the shots, then you can see that the X2 does a marginally better job in terms of details. Now the last thing that I want to talk about is the battery life. Now both the devices have the same 4000 mAh battery, but thanks to a more power efficient chipset and a lack of 90Hz display, the X2 manages to last for a bit more than the X2 Pro. However, the X2 Pro makes up for it with its faster charging. The 50 watt super whoop charging is absolutely bonkers, it's amazing, and it just charges things at a super fast rate. Now the 30 watt charging on the X2 isn't bad either. The 30 watt charging is the same as what OnePlus provides on its flagship devices that are priced double the price of the X2. But yeah, the 30 watt charging is still no match for the 50 watt one on the Pro variant. Now, I personally don't charge my phone from 0 to 100%. It's never the ideal case for me. For me, I just plug my phone into charging at any random time and then I plug it out whenever I have to use the phone. That's the way I use it, and that's where the X2 Pro feels a lot more convenient. I can just plug it in and within literally 15 to 20 minutes, I have a day's worth of juice. For the X2, that number changes to about 30 to 40 minutes of charge. And to be honest, in real day-to-day usage for an end user, that's probably the only thing that you need to remember. So what's the verdict here? Well, usually you would associate the Pro variant to be the real deal and the other version to just be the uncalled light variant. But here things are slightly different. Actually, they're quite different. The X2 feels like the real deal with a no compromise package, while the X2 Pro offers the same package with all the bells and whistles. Now you can get the X2 and still feel like you own a flagship product. It genuinely feels like a flagship product, and if you can just let go of the higher refresh rate and the benchmark scores, it performs just as great. Personally though, I am more of a bells and whistles kind of guy, which is why I like the X2 Pro more, and I've been using it as a daily driver for about 3 weeks now. That said, for most of you guys out there, the X2 is definitely the device you should be going for unless you have the extra cash and you want to spill it out on the Pro variant. Well, that was my take on both the devices. If you have a different opinion or if you have any other queries, you can go ahead and sound off in the comments below. As always, there will be a buying link in the description box as well. And we have some amazing videos in the pipeline too, so make sure you're subscribed to our channel. This is Varun from Guiding Tech, and I'll see you in the next one.